Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we are traveling to Spain with Edie. So, welcome, Edie.
Hi.
So, what inspired you to create tours to Spain specifically, since that's your niche?
Interesting. I was a teacher, Spanish teacher in high school for a very long time before I started the company. And the company actually starts as a result of my teaching. It's just a natural extension of the classroom. Kids would always say, why are we learning all this Spanish if you don't take us anywhere to learn anything? And so I thought, all right, let's plan a trip to Spain this summer. And that's exactly what we did. And, high school kids are wonderful. They're just sponges. And they said, well, can we get out of this tour bus and maybe like go for a hike or something? And so I said, oh, yeah, I know a couple of places that we can do. And that's how the company started. And they were as passionate about getting out there in the countryside and talking to people and practicing what little Spanish they had. And they found that the Spaniards are so accommodating and so open and wonderful about sharing their language in addition to everything else they want to share. But the kids were just so receptive. And every year we'd have another trip. And I started having two, three, four trips. And I thought, I may have to leave teaching. And that's what we did. And 27 years later, we're still doing it.
Wow, that is amazing. And I was
Yeah.
briefly on your website and you offer like a wide variety of types of tours. So, do you want to share a little bit about the different kinds of adventures you can have and
Well, the idea with Spain Adventures was that Spain is such a big country and it offers so much from the gastronomy to the landscapes. It changes within an hour of driving from one place to the other. So we found that it offered a great deal of variety. We offer trips in the Rioja. The Rioja is a vast wine country, and people love the culinary courses there. Riding on a bicycle through the vineyards is just probably one of the most wonderful things you can do in the autumn. Then, of course, there are all those wineries. There are over 600 wineries in that section, and that's not the only part of Spain that sells wine, that produces wine. You've got the Baixas, the Rias Baixas. You've got all these other areas that sell wonderful wines. So that's a 7 day tour that you can do on a hike, on a bike, or just going to vineyards, different vineyards. That's really a fun thing. Our baby is the Camino, the Way of St. James. We do that we've been doing that. Actually, that was the first trip we ever did,
oh
was on
wow.
the Way of St. James. And you can start it all the way at the foot of the French Pyrenees, Jean-Pierre-de-Port, and that takes 34 days. So usually that's reserved for our teachers and people that really have a lot of time. Retirees like to do that. 34 days to get all the way across Spain, and the magnitude of that trip is just it's just impressive to see that you've walked it or biked it all the way across Spain from one point to the other, and that just offers so much. Some people do it as a religious journey. Other people do it as a true pilgrimage, and we get a lot of architects that sign on because
Hmm.
it's just so varied. There's so much to see all the way across Spain, from tiny villages to those incredible monuments to the cathedrals. It's just a beautiful trip. And again, we can do that three ways. We can do it as cultural, no bikes, no hikes, no stress. You can do. People get nervous and they say, "Oh, it's a bike tour." Well, the bike tours too are wonderful because we offer a support vehicle. The support vehicle means it takes you from you do the hiking or the biking, but you never have to worry about your luggage. It's waiting in your room when you get to where you're going. These are just really fun trips. And then there's just the hike. That's a real journey. You have to be a little fit to do that trip, but everyone does it. I've had 85-year-olds do the trip,
Oh,
and they just
wow.
love it. You get tired, you hop on the support vehicle and you walk what you want. But most people do the entire thing. And we offer that three ways: way from the beginning at Roncesvalles, or in the middle in Burgos, or the last 100 kilometers. With the Camino, you're offered this beautiful certificate that says you've done this journey, that you've walked the last 100 kilometers. 100 kilometers is 60 miles. So that's pretty doable for just
Yeah.
about anyone. We've actually taken people, we had a woman break her leg just before she went, and I said, no problem. And she looked at me as though I was crazy, but we got her through. It was great. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
it became a community, and everywhere we went and we needed help with that pushing that wheelchair, we got her there. So she was thrilled at the end.
Oh, I'm
So I
sure she
can do it.
was.
Yeah.
Wow. What an
And then there's the
amazing.
south of Spain. The south of Spain offers a lot in the way of flamenco and music, and the weather is always perfect. So you pick a spot. It's kind of like you go to the map and you say, I want to go here. And we can either give you a package tour or design a tour for you. So yeah, it offers a lot as a country.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is. I think it's kind of a little bit underrated. You did like you right before we got on the call, you were saying how you'll ask people sometimes where they want to go and you hear Paris or some of these London, but Spain kind of has a lot to offer, but it doesn't seem to rise to the top as
It
such.
never does. And it's interesting because when you think of Spain, most people think of bulls. Well, not very many people go to bullfights anymore, or they think of just flamenco dancers. Well, that's just in one tiny little piece of Spain. It just offers so much. And we don't have an icon if you think about it. If you think about Paris, what's the first thing you think of?
Yeah, the Eiffel
The Eiffel
Tower.
Tower.
Yeah.
You think of London, you think of Big Ben, you think of London Bridge, you think of Italy, it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa or whatever. But you think of Spain, and okay, what comes to mind?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. So maybe we should call the uh, tourist office of Spain or the embassy and say, could you guys give us an emblem that
Yeah,
isn't
you
an icon that isn't a bull?
right. They need to push that out there. You're right. Give them a new little tourism campaign.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking that for a first timer, where would you even? Because you've got, like you said, Barcelona and Madrid, and sometimes they're kind of, like you said, you actually get a map out. There's quite a bit of real estate there to cover.
Just a lot of ground. And then if you think about it, it's really not, it's about the size of Texas. So it's
Okay.
not huge, but there's a lot. It offers mountains, it offers beaches. In the winter, there's great skiing. Nobody knows about that. I mean,
Oh wow.
great skiing in Spain in all the mountains, the sierras. And but if you were asking where, if you're only going to go to Spain once, where would you go? I'd probably do the three city treasures, which covers Granada and covers Sevilla and Cordoba, and those are the most popular, I think, cities in Spain, and they offer so much. But you can't go to Spain unless you stop in Madrid, because Madrid again is a cultural hub. It's dead center of the country. There's arts. There are four museums that you really need to see. There's great wines in that area. There are beautiful parks. The monument, just to walk around the city is really fun. Lots of diversity, lots of offerings in the way of nightlife. Barcelona is also a great, great city. You've got Gaudi and all of his artwork, and that's one that you need to see. It's coastal as well, so if you take a little drive just an hour away, you wind up in some of the prettiest beaches I've ever seen. And you're surrounded by three oceans. You've got the Atlantic, you've got Cantabrian, you've got the Mediterranean.
Oh wow.
Um, and the only thing that blocks it is that little piece of Portugal, which is also a beautiful country. So offers an awful lot, but that's where I would start. I'd start in Madrid and then work my way south. And if you came back to Spain, then I'd say go north, northeast and northwest, do the Camino, and then you've covered a lot of ground. So really, you could do a good 4 trips and not see the entire country. I think it's pretty much like Italy. I mean, you can't see all of Italy in
No,
7 days.
no, you just can't. You're right.
So
So what
yeah.
tours do you lead still? Some of your own tours then?
I do. I love the walking tours across the Camino, and in fact, and the bird photography tours. I'm doing one in May, and I'm leading that tour, and then I'm leading another one, the long Camino, in September. And these are repeat clients. These are people that traveled with me 25 years ago, and they want to see if they can still do it, so they're coming
Oh,
back.
that's great.
Yeah, and so I wanted to do that with them. And then I'm a hog when it comes to the student trips. I grab as many of those as I can, high school and colleges. That's really where I just love to be with them. They're open to everything, and they want to practice their language skills. And they wake up every day and they say, "What are we doing?" I live for those moments.
Well, yeah, that's so rewarding to see, I'm sure, kind of relive the first timer's experience each time they see something or taste something.
And every trip is different because people ask me, "Aren't you sick of doing that Camino?" And I always say no, because it's up to the individual traveling. It's your trip. It's all about you. And I always learn something new with anybody that does the Camino. I see it through their eyes for the first time. So, no, haven't gotten sick yet.
Well, that's good.
Uh,
So, how much walking is there on the Camino trip per day? Is it kind of to get?
If it's the last 100 kilometers, it's usually about 16 miles a day. And again, it's not just, okay, we get up in the morning at 8 o'clock and we walk the entire day. They're great stops. We make visits. We stop at vineyards. We stop at churches. We stop at whatever monuments there are to be seen. And just sitting down for a picnic, and really enjoying the landscape. So it's about 16 miles. I would say the shortest day on the Camino is about 11 miles, and the longest day is about 20. All doable.
Yeah, that's probably all doable. So, to get ready for those trips, you probably just recommend getting outside and
Just walk.
walk. I mean,
Walk a little bit every day, and always know that you get tired and there's a support vehicle waiting for you. And that doesn't mean that we do the kilometers for you. If you stop at a certain point, that next day you get driven to that point and you do the entire stage that you missed. So some people, oh, but that's cheating. It's not cheating.
no,
You get
yeah.
tired, you hop on the van and you go.
That's wonderful. What a great trip. And I'm sure eh, the sense of accomplishment at the end is just wow.
You have to look at the map, and you look at the map, and I put a dot on where you started and where you walked, and people say, we really did that. Yeah, you really did that. It's the magnitude of that moment is like, wow. Yeah, it's a real accomplishment, and you come home feeling very gratified, very fulfilled.
So I'm sure the last couple of years with COVID was kind of a challenge. Were you?
It was terrible. We had one solid year where we didn't do anything. And then when it opened up a little bit, yeah, it became such a hassle. You had to go to the embassy. You had to have a real reason for traveling. So if you didn't have family, aging relatives, you couldn't get into Spain. So
Oh,
they kind of blocked us off. And now you don't have to test for COVID or any of that. So just as long as um, you're honest about not testing positive, so
yeah, good. So
it's easier.
can you talk a little bit about some of the places you stay? Do you tend to stay like locally owned accommodations or share a bit about that?
Yeah, we really like the locally owned places. These are called casas rurales, and they're owned by families, and usually they're generations. And um, it's just very different than staying in a hotel with 100 rooms. Though we love those. When we get to Santiago, we like to stay in the bigger hotel because that's kind of your treat. But these family-owned homes we've been working with for, as I said, since we started 27 years. They know us. We've watched their kids grow. They've watched us. It's they've watched us develop into a really good company, solid company, and people notice that. You don't feel as though you're in and I love the hotels. I'm not putting them down, but
Right,
there's something
right.
about being in a 12-room house with your own bathroom, your own suite, and then waking up and grandma's in the kitchen making the muffins. It's very special. If they know that there's a birthday, that gets celebrated. And those are the things you can't do in the bigger hotels. In the cities, we tend to stay in little boutique hotels, never more than 20 rooms. So we pretty much take over the place, and those are our specials. Although we do love the Paradors. Um, do you know you
No,
probably know
no.
what the Paradors are. Paradors are these beautiful monuments that are refurbished and redone, and they're government subsidized, so they're really well taken care of. When you get to St. James, to Santiago de Compostela, where we stay is the hospital that was built by King
Hmm,
Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in the late 1400s to house the people coming from the New World. Very special. I mean, the dining
right.
room sounds a little creepy. The dining room is actually what the morgue used to be,
Oh, yeah, that is a little creepy. It's got
but
character. It's
it's beautiful. It's beautiful because some of the openings, the catacombs are all arches, and the wines are
oh,
stored in there, and the tables and some of the tapestries are original. So
oh
it's like
wow.
staying in a museum. And some of these places are just really very special. So we like to use them.
Yeah, those sound beautiful and
They
just,
are. They're
yeah,
amazing.
like architectural gems. I love it when they can repurpose a building instead of, sometimes here in the United States, it's like, oh, we don't need that, we tear it down, where it
No,
can be
I know it.
turned into something useful again and give it a new life.
Yeah, I think in the 70s they started to rebuild these places. It was, this hospital in particular is stone by stone. This wasn't done by any kind of crane or anything. And when you walk in, it's really impressive. The high ceilings, the statues everywhere, the paintings, pretty impressive. So we do love those.
And I love the fact that you stay in these little almost, it's like staying in someone's home with grandma making breakfast. And I mean, you can't get that same experience in a larger hotel. It's just a different feeling.
And what's wonderful is you still get your privacy. The rooms are beautiful. They're beautifully decorated. It's en suite. But when you come down in the morning, these spreads are just impressive.
So what would you say is a typical, because I've never been to Spain, to be honest. So what is breakfast like in Spain? I know.
What? See? But
I
and where and just to put you on the spot just a little bit, where was the very first place that you visited?
The very first place I visited was actually Ireland because my great grandmother was born there. So that's where I first visited. That was my first
Yeah,
international trip.
your first. And then the second one was probably Italy.
No, it was actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think it was Italy. Yeah, and we went to the little villages and we
Yeah.
self-planned that. And then London, I think, was after that. London or Paris was out. You're right. And so Barcelona's kind of on my radar, Lisbon, some of that. But I know there's so much more to Spain.
Well, on my next trip, I'm going to be sending you daily videos so that you can see and just kind of entice you to make Spain your next trip.
Yeah, well, in autumn too. If you notice, I do a lot of things in autumn. To me, there's
Beautiful.
so much beauty in places in autumn, you know, like you were mentioning the vineyards. I can just
Oh my
picture.
gosh. Well, September and October are the harvest times. So not only is the color there, but you see all of this activity. And when we're there in September on this trip that I'm going with these people, um, uh, they're going right during the harvest. So we're going to be participating in some wine stomping, and we're going to sample every wine there is, and we'll be part of the harvest festival. So I'm really looking forward to that. But the colors are just incredible.
Oh, I bet. I bet it's amazing. And the food. Tell me about the food because I
Oh
always love
my.
hearing about the
It's
food.
just there's just so much. There are 17 autonomous regions in Spain, and they all have their flavor and they all have their color. One place near the Camino sells the little peppers that are just incredible. I've never tasted anything like that. In Asturias, which is another region, the cheeses are incredible. France has nothing on these cheeses. And I love those French cheeses. And then, of course, there's the Rioja for the wine and meat. And in the south, you've got fish. It's just plentiful. But actually, fish is plentiful everywhere in Spain because you're surrounded by the three oceans.
Right.
So it's wherever you go, it's always fresh. I mean, we've had fish taken out of the stream, trout, and then served that evening for us. I mean, we actually watch them catching them. So the food is incredible. Chocolates in Astorga, the factories, there are three factories that make incredible chocolate. What else I can go on all day. Yeah, the food is pretty unbelievable. Different, more natural. Some people walk on the Camino and they say, I lost weight on this trip and I ate more than ever. And I always laugh. And I think it's because everything is so fresh. There are no preservatives in anything. And so much of it is homemade.
Right.
Gluten is not a problem anymore. Gluten-free people have a great variety of foods to choose from. Um, so yeah, it's there.
And I think just for people getting outside and walking, I mean, like you mentioned, when we sit in the United States, and if you don't walk a lot, maybe you walk a couple miles a day or whatnot, you think, oh my gosh, 16 miles. It kind of boggles the mind. But
Yeah.
like you said, just one foot in front of the other, enjoy the fresh air, chatter and talk.
And stop, exactly. Talk to the people you're going to meet on the road. It's amazing how many people you meet from your hometown. What? And people are just so surprised by that. And then from all over the world. So that's always kind of fun. Wherever you stop, you find somebody from home.
Wow. So what's your average group size? Where do people find you? Let's tell them where to sign up for these amazing trips. Oh, and you wanted to talk a little bit about the bird photography trip, I think.
Oh yeah, the bird photography trip is really that's something we just started, and the gentleman's name is almost very similar to yours, Ron
Yes,
Bielefeld.
I know, I
And
noticed that.
yeah, he's just he's award winning, and he does these great little what do you call them?
Workshops,
Classes or
classes,
workshops, that
yeah.
kind of thing. We don't call them workshops because you're not in a room learning about photography. You're outside learning about photography. And this particular bird trip is done by hides. They're little areas that are set
Okay.
up. And it's on the website. You can see it under bird photography tours. There are little houses where we sit and wait, and they're areas are kind of staged, and the birds just come. They come, they get fed. We take beautiful pictures of them, but they're all out of nature. They're not trapped by any nets or anything
Right,
like that. They
right.
just give them what they like to eat, and they come in and they take a look at what's going on, and we photograph them. And there are some hydro hides. These are actually floating tents where you
Oh,
go
wow.
in with your cameras and you're up close to every variety of ducks and nature that you can possibly be upfront and personal with. But they're fun. We limit those groups to 8. Our normal groups are 12, never more than 12. We just find that it's just we can give you so much more if it's 12 people. And I learned that from the kids on the bus when we were traveling as a teacher and students. 80 people on a bus is just too many for me.
Right.
And I've done some of these tours myself just to learn. I hop on some of these companies, and like 80 people, who are we waiting for today? Who
Yeah.
needs to make a pit stop? 12 people, 2 vans, really, really comfortable. They're huge vans. They're 8-passenger vans. They're Mercedes Vitos. They're very, very nice. 27 years, we haven't had anybody complain about how we travel.
Right.
And that's important. I mean, our routes are not long. We're never in the van for more than an hour, and that's usually to get from one big city to the next. So the routes aren't very long, and mostly you're walking or you're biking to each destination. So that's kind of fun. Um, but yeah, we gave up the bus things a long time ago. So I think that's important to know. 12 people. With the students, we get up to about 20, and that's a
Right.
max.
Right.
And then we really do have to have a little mini bus, but those are the only trips we do that way.
Yeah, 12 is nice too because you get to know the other people, and probably by the end of the trip, you're now all best friends. And
Exactly. And that's important too. I think that enhances your travel experience. I think to meet people that have similar interests right off the bat. If you're on a hiking trip, you have that in common. You like to walk.
right.
If you're on a bike trip, you have that in common. You like to bike. On a wine tour, you're a wino. We get it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and that's really fun. So, it's fun to find groups of people that travel the way you like to travel.
Yeah, I agree. Oh my gosh, this sounds amazing, Edie. So where can people find your tours to Spain and connect with you?
www.spainadventures.com is our website. Keep in mind that we are revamping, so if something's a little twisted, we're working on it. We're working on it. And the phone number is we're always here. There's always a person to talk to, 772 There are forms to fill out on the website that you can just say, hey, shoot me some information, and we can do that. But every trip is there. We're excited about our new website coming up. That should be ready in another month or so. But once we get our maps in order, we'll be ready to roll with that. But it's
Nice.
still there. The old one is still up there to look at. The dates are still up there. We have some openings for September and October. And then after that, we don't do much. November and December, we rest because so
Right.
do the
That's good.
Spaniards.
Right. That's smart. Oh, this has been fabulous, Edie. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully I'll be going to Spain soon. So,
I hope so. Let me
yay.
know when, and I'll do a little trip with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye.